So usually what you have a Labbook title. So the title actually shows what you did, what was done. So it is a nice indication for your table of contents. So table of contents usually is at the beginning of your Labbook. So you have, let's say, title RNA extraction, and you write it here, RNA extraction, at page number 5, let's say. Okay, so you have a title. Now you have aims. And in your aims, of course, is to extract RNA, but you have to actually go into details. So let's say you are trying this protocol for the first time. So the aim is actually to define weak points of protocol. So this is one of the aims, right? So you could actually number the aims. So the first aim is actually to extract RNA, define weak points, and let's say you are trying some chemical that was not used in the original protocol. So you know where to find the original protocol, and now you are using chemical replacement. Okay, so what you do next after the aim, you go into the materials and methods. So materials, you have to show this chemical replacement because this is the modification of your original protocol. So you show the number of plasticware, then you show the chemicals and instruments. Why you want to show instruments? Because let's say that in 3 weeks, somebody finds out that the instrument that was in use was actually broken. So they come to you and say, okay, so you were using the instrument and now it's broken. Can you please explain yourself, etc.? And you say, okay, so at that moment, 2 weeks ago, I wasn't using that instrument because I replaced it with something else. So you actually indicate this everything here. So the methods, you indicate the protocol that you are using. So it's different from the original one. Why? Because you are defining the weak points, first of all, and also you are replacing the chemical that is going to be used. So you are writing protocol to be used. Okay, so this section is very important because when you come back in 3 weeks, you should be able to repeat it and also to actually change something inside it. Okay, so if you don't have this section documented, then of course you are unable to redo the experiment, and you have to go all over again because now you lost the actual methods and materials, and now you need to redefine weak points of the protocol, etc. So this part is very important. Next, you obtain some results. In results section, you only show results. So you don't say, okay, so I have the value of 100 instead of value of 50, and this is happened because I made a mistake in calculation, etc. No, you just show the results. So the value is 100, that's it. Why? Because then you have the discussion section. And discussion section is actually about discussing the results, troubles, then the protocol steps, chemicals used, etc. So why you have a defined discussion, although you could do everything inside of the previous sections, it's actually to make sure that you keep everything clean and organized. And when you have it clean and organized, you don't have to read every single step to understand where you had the thought about the used chemical, for example, or where you had a thought about why you actually get the value of 100 instead of 50. So you keep it in the same section, and all your thoughts, of course, you will forget the conclusions that you made based on results or methods in one day. But if you have them in discussion, so this is again external memory hub. Okay, so since you have this external memory hub, then keep it organized. Otherwise, why you keep it external, right? So everything that is related to discussing results, troubles, protocols, chemicals, aims, etc., it actually is in discussion. So let's say that you obtained some results that were striking, okay, and it actually led to resetting the aims. Okay, so you write it right in the discussion. So for the next experiment, I want to look at something else instead of just extraction of RNA. I want to look at some proteins because I obtained some very interesting information. So you actually write it in the discussion. The change of aims, you write it in the previous discussion because here is the section for your thoughts. And don't think that it's actually not related to educational lab. It is related to educational lab. First of all, because you learn here, and second, because you create the neural networks that will help you in your research life. Okay, so if you fail to create these neural networks, with time, it will be much more difficult to kind of readjust the neural networks where you don't have this organized documentation. Okay, that's why please make sure that you have the proper sectioning, like titling, aims, definition, materials and methods, results and discussion. So what you have usually, so we don't ask you to do that, but sometimes you might be asked to show the conclusions part. It's actually now, because you had discussion everywhere else, the discussion in another section, now for your conclusions, you only summarize everything. So first of all, of course, aims. So you set aims for your lab book, and now you need to understand if you achieve these aims. Okay, so first one was RNA extraction. So you looked at the nanodrop and you don't receive any RNA, okay? If you don't receive any RNA, you just write it in conclusion. So the aim to achieve the RNA extraction was not fulfilled, and reference your discussion for why. Okay, so the second aim was actually testing the weak points. And now again, in the discussion, you say that it might be related to bad sedimentation of the RNA, okay? So now you write something like sedimentation work bad. That's why we need to increase the speed of sedimentation. So this is conclusion from the whole experiment, okay? So first, you did not achieve, you did not get any RNA. Second, for the next time, you want to speed up the centrifuge. And third, let's say that you keep the chemical is kept because you don't see any difference with the chemical that you actually are replacing. So these conclusions, they are for you, for future you, to see, okay, so we have, I don't need to read through all discussion again and again to come to these conclusions. So I just have them. Okay, so I did not receive any RNA at the end. And this is because I had bad sedimentation speed. So chemical looked fine. That's why I don't need to troubleshoot it again and read through discussion to actually define weak point. Okay. So your conclusion is actually a kind of plan for your future experiment. Okay, so these are sections that are showing you why it is important to keep the Labbook. Okay, so let's say that you have an educational lab and it is being divided onto 2 weeks. So we will have DNA fingerprinting. So DNA fingerprinting is actually divided onto 2 weeks. So first week we perform the experiment itself, and the second week we obtain the results and we analyze them. But every week is a separate experiment. So for each of the weeks, you will have a title, you will have the aim, you will have the materials and methods, you also have the results and discussion. So you will need to write them all. Why? Because they are different experiments. Okay, so you perform the experiment on the first week, you analyze the results on the next week. So what might be the aim for the first week? The aim is actually to have the digestion of DNA. Okay, so materials and methods, you just show them as they are. Okay, and the results of the digestion, so you put it in the water bath and then you have it out. Okay, so you pull it out and you see that instead of transparent solution, you actually have very misty, if I can say so. So mist, cloudy, yeah. You have a cloudy solution. Okay, so you write it down. So you write like, as a result of today experiment, we obtained a cloudy solution that we will be analyzing next week. Okay, so in discussion, you say, it might be cloudy because of this and this and this. Also, we might have made a mistake on the step of protocol on the step 2. Okay, so troubleshooting is an essential part of your work. So for troubleshooting, you're writing like second step was messed up. Let's say your friend just was making a joke and instead of 1 microliter, you added 5 microliters. Okay, so this joke led to some trouble. And now you actually resolved this trouble for your future. Okay, so the discussion and results must be there. So if you have a lab book, there is no lab or experiment without results and the discussion. If you just write title, aim, and materials and methods, this is not going to work. This is the fail of your experiment because you don't have anything following your aim and protocol. And if you don't have it, of course, you failed the experiment. I mean, in your future life, in your future research life, you failed the experiment. That's why whenever you have title, it means that you have to have results and discussion. Okay, so this is how the Labbook is working and how you are going to perform work during your 5 years, 4 or 5 years of your education. Okay. So I hope it was clear. So now, do you guys have questions?